Hello, longevity junkies. It's time to get your fix. I'm your host, Nikki Lee, the original longevity junkie.
You are. And I'm Beck Joffrey, health conscious hedonist. And today we are going to give you some healthy takeouts to try out yourself. And we'll be talking about developing healthy exercise habits with Nike Run Club coach Beck Wilcock.
Yes, I'm excited, actually. I love talking exercise. Buck, do you actually have some exercises?
Do I actually? Are you like, do you actually exercise?
Do you?
Do you actually exercise? Why, yes, I actually do.
Oh, yay. Okay, great.
Yes, I do. I exercise almost every day.
That's good.
Almost every day. It's almost, and we'll talk about this later, but it's become like sort of a habit. You know, it's not getting myself to exercise as if I don't exercise, I actually don't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that feels. I'm the same. If I go multiple days without any exercise, I feel like my mental and emotional health get really, not just physical health, but those like emotions are, I feel like a therapy, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is. I mean, just in terms of those chemicals and stuff driving your brain and blood flow and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Have you been, I do know, have you been exercising your whole life? Like, were you an athlete growing up or anything? Yeah.
I was, I grew up in Minnesota and I was an ice hockey player.
No kidding.
And I was super into it. And I was a pretty good hockey player. And then I was like 16 years old, and I broke a vertebrae in my back. And that kind of made me, well, I mean, listen.
Which vertebrae?
L4, L5.
Oh,
there was a little
lumbar.
vertebrae right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, lumbar vertebrae right at the joint. It was kind of a mess. And I actually had to have surgery for the first time when I was 15 years old. And I've had back surgery twice more since then. But I did come back and I kept playing. I wasn't quite, as competitive as I was originally because I missed the whole year.
Too.
And that's like a lifetime in Minnesota hockey. But yeah, so yeah, I've been, I was very active though. I was one of those kids who, you just gave them a ball and I could entertain myself all day long. I just want to be outside and playing and stuff like that,
Oh, that's awesome.
How about you? Were you an athlete?
Yes. From like when I was really young, I was a gymnast. And then after that, I went into like softball, and I've been a dancer my whole life. So I've been dancing since I was like 3.
What kind of dancing you like?
That I like?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's different than what I like really did. But I mean, I love like contemporary and hip hop.
Yeah.
Those are really fun. I was on a burlesque team that was really fun.
A burlesque team.
Well, it was a group.
Do you compete
it was a
against
burlesque.
other burlesque?
I don't know. It was a group. Sorry, I said the wrong word.
How do you win in that?
I was on a dance team that we did compete, but no, the burlesque part, we were more of a group, I guess you would say. But we had residencies. Like we had a residency in Atlantic City.
Wow.
It was really interesting. We'd hop on a plane every week and go out there and perform. So I've been, oh my gosh, like for Christmas, let's just say this. As a kid for Christmas, I would get weights. I would get like exercise mats. I would get, my favorite thing in the whole wide world growing up was my Mickey Mouse Jazzercise VHS video.
Oh, nice.
That I would literally clear all of the furniture in the living room and like just be me and the television and my VHS player.
I think we need to reenact that.
It was so fun. I worked out with Mickey Mouse all the time. It was great. Okay, well, we'll go into our first segment. Have you heard? Buck, Forbes magazine published an article about how drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro could treat other conditions. These drugs were originally approved to treat diabetes and obesity, but new reports increasingly suggest that they have far more reaching benefits, as diverse as the heart and the liver disease to Parkinson's, anxiety, bipolar, Alzheimer's, addiction, and more. Have you heard about all? So, Buck, what's your take on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, it's an article from Forbes. It's not like it's a New England Journal of Medicine, but But what they're reporting on is that there's this research on it. None of this actually surprises me that much, because really what the drug does, it was like a diabetes medication, right? Ultimately, that's where these GLP-1 agonists like, Mounjaro or Wegovy or Ozempic, they all kind of have the same function, and they were to keep blood glucose lower, right? So that, diabetes is ultimately a disease where blood sugar is higher because of insulin sensitivity and that kind of thing. So the reason I'm saying it doesn't surprise me is because if you look at a number of these diseases, like liver disease, like for example, NAFLD is one of the things we talk about. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes is on sort of this spectrum of diseases that's called metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is sort of just this inability to sort of appropriately allocate or to deal with blood sugar in one way or another, or I should say not just blood sugar, but just calories in general. And you can end up with deposition of fat in the liver. And so that's why I was talking about liver disease here and some other issues as well. So there are some of these diseases that are ultimately, including Alzheimer's too, where there's probably some relationship between simply controlling blood sugar. So it doesn't surprise me that, if you have less if you're able to bring down blood sugar, you're going to have, healthier liver, you're going to decrease your risk of Alzheimer's, you're going to probably, other inflammatory neurodegenerative diseases. Addiction is an interesting one. I'm not exactly sure I understand the mechanism there.
Well, let me ask you, because, and this could be, such a dumb question, but it's a question nonetheless. Glucose, like that means like a lot of sugar, like you've taken in a lot of sugar, right? If you have a raised blood sugar, then that means frequent desserts or sugar, things that are sugar.
So here's what happens. So normally what happens when a person ingests sugar is that you got to get that blood sugar that goes into your bloodstream into your cells, right? And those cells, specifically, the biggest deposition of that sugar is going to go into muscle or the liver, for example. That is facilitated by a hormone called insulin, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Yeah,
right?
Insulin spikes.
Right. So basically what's going on is you get blood sugar in the bloodstream, and your pancreas releases insulin, okay? Insulin opens the doors to the cells in the muscle, for example, and allows that blood sugar to go into the muscle.
Oh, that's what you don't want.
Okay?
Yeah.
No, and that's what you do want.
Oh, you do want?
That's what you do want.
Oh.
Because then that blood sugar goes out of the bloodstream because it's not doing you any good in the bloodstream.
Okay.
Right?
That's where you don't want it.
Now, what can happen over time, what type 2 diabetes typically is that some kind of problem happens where those doors in the muscle cells I just mentioned don't open properly with insulin. So then the pancreas releases more insulin and then more insulin just to try to get those doors open. And that is hyperinsulinemia. And that's also what we ultimately know as insulin resistance. And at the extreme of that is type 2 diabetes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that being explained, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you hear about it and it's like, I kind of understand the concept, but to actually have it broken down like that is incredible.
Yeah. So if you think about what we're trying to do a lot of times is avoid spikes, blood spikes, because when we're getting those spikes, we're really, we're creating a big squirt of insulin in order to try to bring that blood sugar back down. But if we just kind of help our body out by not getting a huge chunk, huge spike in blood sugar.
And you get these spikes through, definitely, I know,
by eating
food. Yeah. Like food, like carbs and like desserts and
sugar.
Yeah, all sugar. Which, okay. And that actually brings me to the addiction part. like you can be addicted to sugar. I don't care what way you swing it.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I mean, going back to, and I actually think that is
that's probably what
that's
they
a
mean.
Documented disease.
1,000%.
Right.
Yeah, people don't even realize that. They just think,
Yeah.
oh, I'm treating myself.
Yeah,
You're not really.
Sugar
treating
addiction's
yourself.
real, and
It
it's
is
probably
real.
as powerful as heroin. So
yeah, honestly, it's so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how even a lot of these food companies kind of get you to keep, reaching for the, the Oreo or the, whatever snack. Sorry,
no
Oreos.
doubt.
But they're like, damn it, why'd you use mine? The Butterfinger, the Snickers, or
have
whatever.
do you have a sweet tooth?
I always said I have more of a salty, savory tooth
Always?
than
Really? Even as a kid?
Well, I think my friends would actually say the opposite. Because I would put a lot of sprinkles. Okay, I used to make this sandwich, and it was my home fried wheat bread, and I would put a ton of peanut butter, and then I'd put these sugar sprinkles on them, and then that would be my sandwich.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and then it's so good. It is so good. I'm not even kidding. But it's funny because my best friend across the street, her mom one time saw me doing that because she was at my house doing like wallpaper or something, and she looked at me, and I was already a very hyper kid. And so when she caught me doing that, she's like, what? Like she freaked out on me. She's like, no wonder you're bouncing off the walls at my house, all this stuff. And I'm like, what? This is like the best snack ever.
It's peanut butter and sugar.
Yeah. But that's probably why I was a hyperactive kid.
Yeah.
I had a lot of energy. So, all right. So Ozempic, I guess, is this a drug that really can cure depression, or does it make you look so good that it's impossible to be sad?
Well, that's an interesting take, but I will say there's actually a good reason why it would also affect depression as well, which is that one of the things we know that happens in clinically depressed people is they have a really high level of inflammation. So if in fact you are able to lower inflammation with this drug, that seems to have some correlation there. So there's a mechanism there that I could see happen as well. Wow. Now, the one thing I do want to say, though, about Ozempic is that, whereas that I do think that there's like a number of things that are very positive about this drug. I'm not one of those doctors who's going to be like, no, Ozempic sucks and people should stay away from it. Not at all. Here's the thing, though, is that you have one major challenge with this drug that I think is very common, and that it's probably not taken as seriously as it should be, and that is that you lose lean muscle mass. You lose typically, almost as much. When people are losing weight, they're losing a bunch of fat, absolutely, but they're losing a ton of lean muscle mass as well. Now, if you are morbidly obese, you weigh 250 pounds, whatever. People who are obese actually, believe it or not, have more lean muscle mass than lean people on average. So they actually can stand to lose quite a bit of lean muscle mass. And also, if you've got all these other health problems, there's no doubt from a risk benefit perspective that this is a great drug. Now, if you're 10 pounds overweight in your mind and you're trying to do this for the beach, that's where, again, I'm not going to preach to anybody, but what I will say is that losing the muscle may not be worth it. In fact, I have a friend who she went on this and just for the 10 pounds, and she was so pissed off because
she lost all her muscle.
Oh, she's really big into like how her butt looks, because like she's working on it all the time. Butt. And she's like, I totally lost my butt. I'm so pissed off.
Oh, wow.
Right. So just beware. You may lose your butt if you do.
No, we don't want to lose our ass on this thing.
You may lose your butt.
Oh, no. Well, no, that's actually like really true. And a lot of people, it takes a lot of work to build muscle. And also, ladies and gentlemen, honestly, I know we used to be so fixated on like what the scale said, but sorry. When you said butt, I was like, butt.
He said butt.
I said butt. I know.
Beavis
in my head. Oh my God. Okay. But however, there we go. However, like muscle weighs more than fat. And it's going, so if you are, a muscle toned and you are like in your great shape, your hourglass shape or whatever shape you want to be, like don't be afraid of the number. Like, it's really almost more of like you want to measure inches. I feel like it's better to measure around with like a tape measure rather than weigh yourself.
Weight is a tricky thing to measure in general. Now, like if you kept everything like constant every day, but I mean, I fluctuate probably by like 5 pounds in any given day during the day. I mean, I'm like 220 pounds, so it's like 5 pounds is nothing, right?
Right. Yeah. No, it's really true.
Yeah. But yeah, it's again, it's just one of those things to pay attention to. I think, like any kind of drug, there are benefits and there are risks, and it's got to be for the right patient. So
yeah, I've been hearing a lot of like girls, especially, just exactly like you said, just kind of taking it for the 5-10 pounds I can't lose. I'm just like, oh my goodness,
do they lose their butt?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I didn't ask him. I didn't ask. I think it's probably a very sensitive subject.
A bunch of butts on milk cartons.
Fine. Where's my butt? I'm missing butt. Oh my God, you're ridiculous. But
do they? I don't even know if they do.
I don't think they do that anymore. I don't even think that they have milk cartons anymore. You're dating yourself. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about forming healthy exercise habits with Nike Run coach Beck Wilcock. Welcome back to Longevity Junkie. Time for our guest interview. It's The Breakdown with Nike Run Club coach Beck Wilcock. Coach Beck Wilcock is a Nike Run Club coach. The workout app phenomenon has over 100 million users around the world, and Beck is an endurance athlete and a running and strength coach. She's also a mom, founder of Her Sport, and head coach for Nike LA. She's passionate about making a difference in people's lives, supporting them to build their self-worth, and training them to peak condition. Beck, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Me. Thanks so much. What an intro.
Yeah. Well, you earned it. Let's talk about this app. 100 million users around the world. That's a lot of
That's
a lot
crazy.
of running. That's a lot of running.
That's a lot of running. That's a lot of miles.
How would you describe it? I mean, what does it do for runners?
So I would describe it as a coach in your pocket. It's the best way to describe it.
A little tickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everyone carries their phone or is on an Apple Watch these days. Yeah. And you put your headphones in, and Nike has created a space where you can find your long runs, your speed runs, your threshold runs, run with a comedian, run with someone that you know, someone famous that, you're putting your AirPods in, someone's telling you what to do, and you can go out and explore and you're not on your own.
When you say tell them what to do, I mean, I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
So is there like sort of steps that make things easier for people to run? How does it work?
Yeah. You hit start on, let's say, speed run, for instance, and the coach will tell you exactly what to do. So you'll warm up. That might take 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how long your run is. And then you'll go into intervals. They'll count you into the interval and out of the interval. And then they'll go through a cool down with you. So when I say coach in your pocket, it's really coaching
from start
you
to finish.
Really
start to finish.
It
is.
Oh, that's incredible. How did you get involved with this?
I've been working for Nike for 10 years now. I started in Australia and then moved over to the US 8 years ago. And it was just a concept that actually Coach Bennett had, who I work closely with. And he was just like, if we're going to hit all runners of all types and all abilities, like we need to get on an app, like have the ability, like with your podcast. It's like people listen from all around the world. It's like the same thing. If you want to tap into more runners, you have to make it accessible for everyone. People couldn't come to the store. We have in-person events and sessions all the time, but not everyone can make it. This way you have no excuse.
Yeah.
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 And Nike's a worldwide known,
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Probably one of the most recognizable symbols in the world, honest to God.
Swoosh, here we go.
Yeah, swoosh.
Yeah. So what I think is kind of interesting, like with a lot of health things right now, is whenever you have these kinds of apps, and I don't know if this is the right word, but I mean, with a lot of other health apps, there's a gamification element that makes you kind of, I don't know. It almost makes you want to go do it. You know, like you want to play a game or something. Do you feel like there's an element of that?
Yes.
In this? Yeah.
A lot, because in more ways than one, because the app actually records every run that you do. So you have a weekly total, a monthly total. You can it's gamified by challenges. You can, choose to run 100 miles in a month or 20 miles, whatever distance that you're, capable of doing. Or over the year, they have this really long challenge where it's like 1,000 miles to see if you can do that over the year.
Is that a lot? I mean, at the end of the day, is it a lot?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Not much
You cater for like a lot of different types of a beginner runner to the advanced runner. But what's also great about the app is that it has programs on it, and they've gamified the programs as well. So once you complete a session, it's like you complete a level and it unlocks the next session.
Oh, goodness.
So you can't jump ahead levels like people do in programs.
Right. That's actually really true.
You have to do one session before the other.
It's really gamified. It's like the Mario Brothers for adults.
I was thinking that, but I was thinking Donkey Kong.
Really? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I would do Donkey Kong Racing. I didn't do it as like a level thing. That's really funny.
So speaking of, getting addicted to apps, so what is this doing to your mind, do you feel like, in terms of the running part, health-wise? I mean, obviously, you hear a lot about running and happiness. What kind of feedback do you get from your clients, from people who are running across the world?
I get a lot of feedback about runners, it makes them happy.
Yeah.
It's meditative. Like, you have to get to that stage, though. It just doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah,
if you're getting off the couch and going into running, that obviously isn't the case. You're hating it through the whole time.
You're hating it.
The habits are formed, and
you know.
and then you start to enjoy it, or then you reap the benefits.
Right.
But it does take a little bit of work to get to that moment.
Yeah, because when you got here, I think you said, I just got done hurting some people.
Yeah. A lot of my clients.
I was thinking to myself, I used to be a
funny.
surgeon, and I think I used to say that too.
Yeah.
I didn't have scalpels, though. Like, I just want to make that clear. It's a hate-love relationship with a lot of my clients and athletes. It's like they don't like me during the hard session. So that's why I say I hurt people. But they love me at the end.
Yeah.
So you're welcome.
You grow on it. Yeah. You grow on them. I mean, for sure. There's always like you were saying, it's meditative. Now, some people would disagree with you because they, like you said, you would be hated and they would be miserable, right? But I love running. I love, actually, my favorite form of running is when I'm traveling around the world and I run a new city.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite things.
It's a great way to explore the city.
Right.
You're getting your workout in.
Right.
Makes you happier, and you've seen more.
Yeah.
Than you would see out of a car, and you get to go places. I mean, don't get me started on trail running, but yes, great way to explore. Running is a good way to explore.
And can you kind of give us example of like meditative running?
Let's just classify. Yes, I believe that running can be meditative. I do, but you have to build to that. I think that the more you enjoy running, the better you are at running, and that's when it becomes like that meditative effect, if that makes sense. So you have to learn how to calm your mind whilst running, and then that can enhance or boost your mood, enhance your mood, and then de-stress you, and you become calm whilst doing it. It's not,
I mean, there's an actual like sort of chemical thing that happens too.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, so in terms of runner's high and that kind of thing. Yeah. So you sort of become a little bit of an addict for maybe some of those chemicals, and not in a bad way, but
no, I totally agree. Yeah. Like, I am definitely addicted to running.
Yeah.
In the best way. Like, I enjoy running, and I myself get to that mindfulness. I call it mindfulness running. Because I enjoy it so much that I get to actually channel out. And I can have my time. Like, I mean, I'm a mom of 2 boys. I wear many hats, and it's like kind of like my time to tune into my own body and my own health. So it's calming to me.
Also, you've like, the more you run, the more endurance you have,
Yes.
which I feel then allows you to get into that meditative run because you're not overthinking it. You're not like, okay, I just got to make it this 1 mile. It's like at this point, you're probably able to clock in 5 miles and you're able to just go with the flow of that. And one thing that I have also learned in my running experience is body composition and like positioning and making sure, okay, kind of lead with the hips, like shoulders back, like have your chest up, like all these different things that have actually allowed me to then go further in my one run and then be able to open up this meditative and releasing and just focus on what's ahead of you and not really overthink it.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I always say to runners, like it's one sport that often people don't learn. Like you look at basketball or soccer, you learn how to, dribble the ball and shoot the goals and things. People just go out for runs. So what you're saying is so true. It's like if you learn how to run correctly, then you don't have to think about what you're doing as much. The fitter you are, the more controlled of your breath you are. And then the stronger that you are to handle the load of your body. And you're running correctly, will then make you enjoy running more because it's not hurting you.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to get runner's high?
So for me, it happens either after the run or like 5 to 6 miles in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like a real phenomenon.
Yes.
It's a real phenomenon. And actually, it's the body releasing. They used to think it was primarily a dopamine-related thing, but now I guess the latest research is it's something similar to marijuana.
Yeah,
endocannabinoids, the endogenously produced by your own brain.
Yeah,
and so it has a very similar effect on the brain as THC.
Yeah,
which in California we know very well.
Yeah, all too well. Especially when you're running by it and you already have that.
So the question is, could you just take some gummies and run and have the same benefit?
I mean, yeah.
I
used to get high before run classes. I'm not kidding you. It's just whatever. I'm telling the world.
Legally, I can't recommend that.
Wait, in California, I think you can.
You can. Yeah, legally you can. Right.
I don't know what's done. Yeah.
It is fun to check out.
But I will say, like, everyone experiences that euphoric feeling, which is what you're describing, right? Of the ECS is like everyone experiences it differently. It might be you might feel calm, you might feel like a sense of overwhelming joy. It might do different things to you. So I feel like even though it's like research has proven that that's true.
Sure.
It's like the levels of ECS is like rising, but they don't know how you feel it in comparison to me,
right,
for instance. Like
It'll
what
be
you
different.
feel, like euphoric differences.
Make you paranoid.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the worst. No.
But most of the time, I just want to say, like from my experiences and all of my clients, that everyone experiences that it's kind of like an addictive thing where you want to go back and run because you really like that feeling.
Well, is it the gamification and the level unlocking and the competitiveness in that, or is it actually like
no? This is like the chemicals that your own body is having. Like it's like
That's
that chemical
beautiful.
reaction, and this is how we create habits, because this doesn't just happen in running. This happens in, if you're doing, boxing for a long period of time, even strength workouts that are over an hour. You experience the runner's high, but normally it's like that sense of achievement or that happiness, like, or the second win. People call it the second win.
Yeah.
They're like, I just got energy somehow.
Do you think you were wired this way from the beginning to exercise all the time? Because I think you made a good point. There's a habit formation on exercise. So, I for one, am not somebody who I think was initially wired necessarily to want to exercise every day. I like playing. I was very active as a kid and wanted to play games, but like, just going to the gym and feeling like, a rat on a
hamster wheel.
On a hamster wheel, the existential despair that comes with that.
I get what you're saying. But
so funny.
I do believe that this behavior is learned, because no one really just wakes up and like, if they've never ran before once, decided they want to go for a run, you're not Forrest Gump straight away.
Yeah.
It's learned. It's behaviors that I, as a child, was taught. So my parents used to take me to swim lessons. They used to take me cross country and track. And so as a child, I had these implemented into my life, which therefore meant it was just part of my life.
Yeah.
It was my lifestyle. And that's why I love it and enjoy it so much, because I know the benefits of how sharp I am when I want to use the parallels in life of like career and going through school. It's like if I ran in the morning, I knew I was going to be better at school because I was sharper. Like I was more like cognitively aware.
Right.
Now,
the same thing still happens to this day.
The runner's high that you're talking about and having that amazing feeling of like endorphins and things like that does it become harder, or you have to run longer in order to achieve that because you've done it so much?
No.
Okay.
It's still something. Then I know that you both exercise, so it's like still something that you get after you run.
Like a sense of accomplishment.
Exactly. Honestly, it is.
It's better than picking up an Instagram. Like,
picking
up
scrolling
on Instagram, scrolling.
I always do this thing on my Instagram. I'm like, hey, stop moving your fingers and start moving your legs. Let's go.
I like that.
I like that too. Yeah.
One of the things that we were talking about, I think is important though, is the habit formation because yours started early. In my case, what happened was I was very active as a younger person, younger person.
Still young.
Yeah, you're still young.
And
about to reverse aging.
Then when I went to, I went to medical school and residency and all this stuff, I just pretty much, for the most part, stopped exercising. And for probably a couple of decades, barely exercised at all. And it really wasn't until getting divorced right at the beginning of the pandemic and having like literally nothing else to do so I started hiking.
Yeah.
And I hiked it reminded me of like Forrest Gump, like where Forrest just keeps going and he goes in. And so I was hiking like nonstop in Montecito.
Yeah.
And I did that every day, like 7 days a week for I don't know how long. But the next thing you know, like I realized that even after all the, crazy emotional stuff was gone, that if I wasn't moving, I felt like something was wrong, right?
Yeah.
I had to move. And so it's interesting because I was looking up some literature on this to see about like habit formation for exercise and that kind of thing. And it's kind of all over the place. But one of the things I thought was interesting is that there was one study that seemed to suggest that there's a pretty good chance that if you can keep at it for 2 months, so like 8 weeks, and exercise like at least 4 or 5 times a week, that it will become a habit, and you too will become a person who actually needs it and doesn't feel like you have to do it. In fact, you feel like Meaning like you don't have to force yourself to do it. In fact, you have to be forced not to do it. Yep. And that is a very, very positive kind of habit or addiction or whatever that we can form.
Yeah. And I like, especially for longevity, but going back to your getting out and hiking every day, like it's a way that you can express yourself as well. Like, and that's what I find that a lot of my runners do is like, okay, let's go out. I want to be creative. I want to feel something or whatever it is. And they go out, and it doesn't have to be running. It can be walking in the mountains. You're also immersing yourself in nature. There's so many benefits of that. But the rewiring of the brain is something very interesting with that, because you said that you came from, you did sports. You obviously didn't have enough time when you're going through, med school and everything that all the studies that you're doing. It's like you're working around the clock, and then you come back to it. It's kind of like you had the foundation, but you still need like that neuroplasticity, so that the retweaking to reform.
Yeah.
Something.
Like my body was just used to doing not very much, and it was fine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it was getting by, but I wouldn't say it was the healthiest.
Okay.
Right. Well, do you feel now that you have like more motivation too? Because do you feel like you, in a vanity sense, like you look better? Do you feel like you're, I don't know, slimming down? Or
No, I think for sure. I mean, especially
It's a good motivator, right?
Yeah, vanity is.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
It's a good
Because
motivator.
I actually didn't start weight training till about 6 months ago. And I was saying, like, part of why I started weight training was because I was telling everybody else to weight train.
Yeah. Well, and longevity,
gosh.
ultimately muscle mass.
And I'm
Dr.
like-
Buck, we need to practice what we preach
I'm
here.
like, let's get
He's learning, it's all right.
principles. These are the principles of longevity.
Lean
do
muscle mass, go
Go
do it.
Go do it. Such a doctor. Prescribes.
But then I started
Yes.
doing it.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, and then you
and
know,
then after a few months, I was actually like, ooh, I remember having a muscle there.
yes.
You know, and then I was like, and then I got motivated, and
Yeah.
then it sort of did become a little bit
But
of
that's-
vanity thing too.
But with
Yeah.
with my clients and my athletes, I find the same thing. They tell me like, I'm not a runner, for
Yeah.
instance. And then I'm like, okay, let's do this program and this is what you need to do. This is your recipe for your body. And then 4 to 6 weeks time, it's like they've flipped and they're like, I am a runner, but not just a runner. I'm a happy runner. Like,
Yeah.
and now I need it.
I am a sad
Oh,
runner.
oh no, that's so funny. So wait, if somebody is not a runner, so they say, and then you just said, I kind of give them a formula to for themselves.
Yeah.
What is a formula like that? Is it with running, or are you maybe just doing a workout? And I don't like, what does it look like?
Well, the way that I coach people is very holistically. So running is just, it's not on its own. It comes with a recipe, and the recipe is running, strength training, and mobility. So I always like to train the whole body, which helps them run for longer, meaning make it a lifestyle. Because what people often do is they start running and they're like, great, I'm running, and they'll run 5K, then they'll run 10K, and they'll just keep ramping the running up without letting the body adapt to that load.
Oh,
So this way you're progressively overloading them like you would do in a strength program,
Mhm.
but you're only increasing that by about 10% a week.
When you're running, is there, because I've heard all different things for different classes, I feel like, is there a proper breathing? Like way to breathe? Yes, right?
Yeah, there is. Inhale through your nose. And if you talk to James and Nasa, have you read that book, Breathe? He's always like, breathe in through your nose and out through your nose.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
going to say everything through the nose.
Yeah,
Do-
exactly. It's
do you
always
agree?
through the nose. It's really hard when you get into a high intensity effort to do in
That's
through
true.
the nose and out through the nose.
Yeah.
So in through the nose, out through the mouth is the correct way to breathe. But if you're a nasal breather, I would do that.
Because it's better.
It's better. Yeah.
Okay,
The
okay.
filtration
Probably
systems just like
pacing
the
wise
body.
too, right? Just
Mhm.
how quickly
How-
air comes in and out.
In and out. Yeah. So
Hmm.
I mean, if you're a sprinter, it's a completely different
Yeah.
story. But for endurance running, in through the nose, out through the mouth.
And going back a little bit to habit forming,
Mhm.
and I know you mentioned this, like you'd been working out as a kid, and then, took a lot of time off, and then you had to get back into it. Beck, help us kind of understand what would be a beneficial way to kind of get back into that habit? Like the motivation and stuff from the beginning. Like, I guess I see the motivation as you're like doing it and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, I have the endorphins and this, but like, what about that first step?
Yeah.
And
I
the
mean,
next after.
Even though I've been doing, the sport all my life and sport in general and fitness, it's still, if I'm starting over again, so whether, that's from having a baby or I've had 2 ectopic pregnancies that come with like surgeries, and then it feels like you're starting over again.
Yeah.
Like my number one tip would be, don't go out too hard. Like, don't make it that challenging that you're going to fail, because then you won't do it again.
Right.
So something like 5 to 10 minutes. And I do this thing with my clients. It's like, okay, you've never ran before. So what we are going to do is every day at 8 a.m., choose a time, you're going to set an alarm and you're going to go out and you're going to run for 2 minutes. And you're running for 2 minutes a day. And then they start forming these habits.
And doing more.
And another way, you might do 3 lots of 10 minutes. But don't make it so hard that it's unachievable, because if you fail, we don't like to do things we're not good at. So
Right.
if you fail, you're not going to come back to it.
Well, and I think also it's about giving yourself some like, good job, go you.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
actually.
I ran that 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
being proud of yourself, which I think is actually one of the hardest things for people to do, is to give like a self-validation or give yourself a pat on the back, like to actually recognize your achievements is actually hard. It's easier and you hope to hear it from other people, which I think is one of the reasons why we love having a personal trainer or something, so that they can get, good job, you're doing it. You know, like we got the cheerleader next to us,
next to you.
as opposed to like if you have to self-motivate and then you have to self-congratulate, then it's harder.
It's harder.
Yeah.
Especially
you're your whole team, right? And that's
So do you incorporate for your running clients when you're coaching them?
Yeah.
Do you talk about weight training at all?
Straight away.
Part of this?
All the time. Because I believe that like strength training is the armor to your body, whether you're a runner or not, I want to add. Like it gives so many benefits, like cardiovascularly, metabolically, like joints protection, like you can name all the benefits. But it goes hand in hand with running because you're when you're running, you're actually overloading your body. So you're actually pounding down on the pavement and it's 10 times your body weight. So you want to make sure that you're running correctly, and B, that you have the muscles engaged and switched on. So yes.
What's your favorite exercise for that?
So I do a lot of single leg work because running is just a balancing act from left to right foot.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you can hold your body weight on one foot.
Okay.
That's a great start because that's what you're doing when you're running.
So what are those, like RDLs or something?
Yeah, like RDLs are single leg. Deadlifts are good. Walking lunges are good. And then single leg squats, step ups, things like that are really good for running.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just good in general.
And just good in general.
And for longevity, I mean, if you think about in terms of longevity, what we talk about, it's weight training and a lot of level 2 VO2 max. Just as a definition of that is basically, if you it's 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate is what this point of level 2 VO2 max is, and what the easiest way to probably think about it, rather than trying to get your heart rate and be like, okay, I'm in it, is like when you're running or you're hiking or whatever you're doing, you're at a pace where it's just slightly hard to talk to somebody you're with, but you can still do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going too hard, you can't really have that conversation anymore, then you're not in level 2 anymore. So between that and lean muscle mass from strength training, those are like the most important elements of longevity training right there.
I love it. I think I just got the confirmed your program is working, Beck. Keep going. From Dr. Buckyard.
Now go do it.
Go do it. Exactly.
I'll watch you do it. I'll prescribe it for you.
Strength training and VO2 max, like training is, and staying within that zone that you're talking about is underrated.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't know. And there's like a lot of people do the high intensity work.
Yeah.
And then, but they don't do that like zone 2 work or doing in between to like work on the VO2 max.
Yeah.
And they don't understand the benefits from doing the aerobic exercise. That's just a little hard to talk.
Yeah. I mean, there is the high intensity stuff too. How do you typically train people for that? What's the routine?
So the routine, I try and do that. They'll probably do 1 to 2 hard sessions a week like that.
And when what does that session look like?
I love Tabata. Tabata's a really good example of like,
that is really intense.
So it's like 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. So the ratio is 2 to 1. So your rest is shorter than your effort, which what makes it so hard.
Right.
It's something that you can't actually consistently do for more than a minute. So you actually do 8 sets. In my Spicy Speed and NRC, which is Nike Run Club session, you go through this and it's like you do it for 4 minutes. So it's 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, and you repeat that 8 times. And 20 seconds doesn't sound like a lot. So you can keep at it, and you start and you're like, oh, 20 seconds, that's good. Yeah. And then the rest catches up.
Yeah. That kind of training actually is shown to essentially create more mitochondria, get rid of some of the old, wacky mitochondria.
Yeah.
And so in effect, what that's doing too is it's increasing your VO2 max. So it's a way to do that as well.
Both.
Yeah. And if you look at longevity again, going back to predictors of mortality, actually probably the two biggest predictors of longevity or on the other side mortality is VO2 max, and lean muscle.
Lean muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the two things.
Yeah. So it's like if you do strength training 2 to 3 times a week, you're getting your high intensity once, and then you're getting out to do those runs.
Yeah.
I would like to say, or hiking. You might be hiking on an incline.
Inclines are intense.
Inclines are intense, and it's like you don't have to be running, even though I would love for everyone to run. Not everyone enjoys it. I think the main point in longevity is to enjoy what you do, because you want to be doing it for life.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be so hard that you're not going to continue.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, that's kind of what Layne Norton says about diet.
Yeah.
Don't do something that you're not going to be able to continue doing. I think it's the same, for me, hiking, because my back's all messed up from my hockey days, but so I can't really take the pounding as much. But so hiking is really generally, like, the incline stuff is really good for me. But what I generally tell people, because there is sort of, people, often ask, like, how much do I have to exercise? I'm going to exercise. Do you get that question? And what do you usually
All the
answer?
time. I get that all the time. And it depends on their base for me. So if you're going from someone that has never exercised before, give them a low dosage of 60 to 90 minutes. And that doesn't have to be intense. That's my philosophy anyway. And that could be like divvying it up into, I like to say, exercise snacks, where you're doing 10 minutes, like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon. Like, let's move our bodies. Like, let's get that cellular turnover and, like, really work on, I don't know, I just don't understand how people don't move knowing the benefits.
And you have so much static energy.
So I'm always like, just try it. I'm like that saleswoman. Like, just try it. See what if you don't like it after a month, money back, guaranteed.
No, it's true. Actually, if you think about it, like, it is probably the most powerful intervention, right? Like, and if anybody could, if all these people who are listening to Longevity Junkie are interested in longevity, and you said, okay, I'm going to put this benefit in a pill, and here's all the benefits, and you listed all the benefits of exercise and said, do you want to take that supplement? You can get it at Amazon. It would be sold out in like 10 seconds.
Yeah. 100. Right? Everyone's always looking for that magic pill.
Right, exactly.
But it's actually easy to go out and do the exercise if you form that habit.
Yeah.
I always think, the other thing is, just as an aside, I've said, I've told people, and obviously in terms of the amount of exercise, like, when that first few, from going from 0 to 2-3 hours, that's huge benefits. I mean, no matter what you do. But I think, like, if people have asked me this question enough, where I say, okay, if you want some kind of regimen, why don't you shoot for minimally effective dose, right? For a long term, and you're shooting for longevity. I always say, shoot for 150 minutes a week of VO2, level 2 VO2 max, as we described. And then weight train, I say, at least one time a week. I mean, it'd be great if it was 2, but one time a week, hit every major muscle group with weight training. And I feel like if people just did that amount, we'd probably be adding years, quality years to life right there.
So I totally agree with you. And I just want to make it clear that strength training, if you've never done it before or you're coming back into it, it doesn't always have to mean lifting weights straight away. You can start with body weight exercises. So you can go down and do, try 5 push-ups, do 10 squats, walk lunge in your hallway.
Burpees are intense.
Yeah, exactly. Like doing strength movements that target those large muscle groups really benefit and help you. You just need to learn how to do them before you add resistance, but it's intimidating for people, especially women, I find, to go into a gym to do these movements, and men too. I'm sure if they haven't done it for a while, you don't want to look silly, but you don't necessarily need to start in a gym. you can start with
I
body
only
weight
just
at home.
started now going to the gym
Yeah.
because I'm at weights that like gym bro weights.
Yes. Let's
So,
go, but
You have to get past like a gym bro
Yeah.
kind of level before you can go to the
Yeah.
gym and start lifting weights. Otherwise, you're
known as
embarrassed.
buff buck.
buck. I will advocate to making sure that, you know, if you don't know what you're doing in strength training, it's a lifelong skill. Go and get a professional that does know. Go and get a personal trainer. Like, ask for your birthday or a gift card from someone for anniversary or whatever it is to go and get that experience, because this is something that you can do for life to help with your longevity.
Yeah,
Or
for
get
sure.
the Nike Run Club app.
And
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
the other thing
I
is,
will
like-
teach you.
It's free, right?
It's free. Yeah,
That's
what I
incredible,
love about it,
actually.
and everything in longevity, I think you can take it to extremes, right? You can you can think that you have to do so much, and in reality, in this one, there may be some some argument that doing less is more in some regards, because at least in terms of some of the literature out there, there is what's called a U-shaped effect in terms of the effect on exercise and longevity, right? So the idea being like there's like this Goldilocks zone of exercise where it actually increases longevity, and then after that, it could become counterproductive because you're starting to break down things. You're starting to get scarring of heart tissues and things like that. And at least from what the studies suggest, it's like that Goldilocks zone is somewhere between 3 and 10 hours of strenuous exercise. And beyond that, then it becomes sort of diminishing returns and then potentially harmful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's for sure. And I have this with my clients and athletes where they get into this overtraining habit. And what they're doing is like, because when you're strength training and you're running, like you're actually tearing the muscle and it's rebuilding. So you think of hypertrophy, it's like you want to grow the muscle, right? And that happens. But it's like if you don't adapt to the load that you're doing, you don't rest. I mean, you listen to Matthew Walker and like his sleep books and things like that. It's like if you don't sleep and rest, then your body's not going to adapt to that training load, and therefore you're not getting better anymore. Yeah. So it's the same with longevity. If you're trying to train for longevity, you can't overdo it.
Yeah.
Balance. That's like,
everything is a balance.
I love
honestly.
the Goldilocks because there is that sweet spot where it's like within yourself it feels good. It's like if I get 8 hours of sleep and I'm training, I'm at the top end just because of the sports that I do. So I'm doing 10 hours a week and I have my set structure and recipe of like how I'm doing through different phases of my training program. I know that sleep, nutrition, and not going over those hours is the secret recipe for me.
Okay, so we know that there's an importance of recovery. You've talked about different like recipes for individuals.
Yeah.
This Nike Run app is there a recovery section of it? Because I just downloaded it, I will say, but we do have some people around us
Nikki.
that love it. So I feel like and it's a little tough to navigate in the beginning because I don't know what to do. So what all does it provide? Is there a recovery section?
Yeah.
Or
I'm so glad that you downloaded the app.
Yes.
Welcome. I'm now going to coach you in your ears.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
From wherever you are.
You
You
can't
can't.
my ear all day. Somebody loves me.
Here we go. Yes. So like the programs are done really well like that. So you have built-in rest. So if you're training for a half marathon, you're going to have your speed runs, your long runs, your rest days, your active recovery days, like easy runs is the way that they put it. And you might even do a walk for that.
Okay.
And your strength. So you have to implement rest to make gains. I think in short is what we're all saying here.
Okay.
The Nike Run Club app does that really well.
Oh, that's so great. Now, quick question, actually, because it's just popping in my mind about walks. Because walking is incredible.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that we should do. And just getting outside is incredible as well. What would you say a good walk, whether it be a daily walk or something that makes you feel like you've accomplished something? Like, is there kind of a length or a speed or what would you advise?
For me, I'm like, I'm always a 30-minute kind of, like, I feel like the benefits are 30 minutes. But like I said, you can break that up throughout the day. You can do 10 minutes of a morning after meals. I'm a big believer in digestive.
Best,
yes, digestive system.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Within 15 minutes after.
Get the body moving, 10 minutes. You might do 10 minutes after lunch and then 10 minutes after dinner. But with walking, I would direct people to either do an incline walk on a treadmill because you're burning more and you actually feel those benefits.
Yeah.
Or
you get sore
go
for
find
sure.
a mountain. I mean,
Yeah.
Buck's been doing this. And if you want more of a challenge, get a little weight vest on, Buck. That's what I'm going to put up. Unless you don't like running, but you might just add 10 pounds.
I could do
a
that
20-pound
sure.
Weight vest. That's
or
what
I
I've
could
done.
just eat a bunch.
It's
you
like
be the weight. No, you gotta.
no. We're trying to get lean muscle mass here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been super fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this with us and giving us all of your
It's been
wisdom.
super insightful, Beck. Thank you.
It's such a fun conversation. I think the last points is just try. If you haven't ran before, try it. If you haven't done strength training, try it.
Try with the app with 100
try with
million
the app.
other people.
And
I mean,
the app will help
in
you.
your ear.
Yeah. My favorite run, like I said, is the Spicy Speed one. Because
Okay.
you really get it all. It's an all-in-one. It's 15 minutes, so you can't tell me you don't have 15
easy.
minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's spicy and it's fun and it makes you feel like you've accomplished something. And I'll talk you through the whole way.
Nice.
Fantastic.
So
Thanks, Beck.
Thanks so much.
We're going to take a quick break and we will be back with your healthy takeout. Welcome back, Longevity Junkies. Time for our healthy takeout. I think our first healthy takeout is, well, we know exercise is the number one longevity pillar and dopamine running. I mean, that's
or
a high.
Or endocannabinoids.
Actually, yes.
That's what it.
That
so
was
so it's
new.
like it's like pot in
like
your
weed.
head.
Yeah,
like
pot.
growing it in your own brain. Yeah, that's what
You
it's
have your
basically.
own endless supply of weed.
And all you have to do is run to it.
Run
Right,
to it.
run
yeah.
to it. So that's
incredible.
that's that was pretty interesting stuff. So I think for sure. I think one of the takeaways too is about just starting something, right, and getting into habits because a lot
Making
of this
it
we
easy
talked
first.
about. Yeah, what we talked a lot about today was ultimately all these things, whether it's runner's high, whether it's like gamification, all these things. You got to just get up and actually start doing it. Yeah. And, whether that is if you haven't exercised in a long time, like I was in that situation for a while, just got to start somewhere, right? Maybe you do the incline treadmill, buck TikTok thing.
yes.
Or, or something like that, right?
Yeah. No,
what else
for sure.
What else do you got?
Well, honestly, I'm interested. I told you I downloaded the app, the Nike Run Club app. So now I love that she told me do the spicy speed training or the spicy run that she said.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be cool to try. Like I really will. I'll guinea pig it, and I will definitely give it a try.
And she was saying, and you may want to try this. These running clubs have become the new dating thing.
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, she's gonna come to LA, so we'll connect.
Might have to force me to start running.
Yes, there you go. There you go. There's a way to get you back out.
So
okay.
there you go.
Yeah,
Again, it's
running's gonna be a
gamification.
thing.
And again, it doesn't have to just be running, right? It could be any number of cardiovascular things and weight training, all that stuff. It's just about getting up and moving and making it a habit at the end of the day.
Mobility.
So one of the things we talked about is, studies showing that, at least some studies showing that maybe if you can get yourself to do, exercise for 2 months, 4 times a week.
Right. New habit.
And all of a sudden it turns into a habit. See if it works.
And you're happier.
Yeah.
Running and you're
look
happier.
better.
And you look better.
There you go.
I mean, a million other people just signed up because they're going to look
Pretty
better.
good pill. Pretty good pill.
Yes, that sounds good. But are you going to try the app?
No. I can't run. The running thing is just too
There's
clunky
a walking
on me.
thing too.
Is there too?
Yeah, it says walking.
If there was a hiking one, I might do it, but
There might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll explore and I'll text you.
You know, I'm 6'4" and I'm 220
Well, it's a lot more
pounds.
impact on you.
Pound.
No
and-
worries. I'll do it.
No, you
I'll
do
do
it.
it.
How
I
about
like being
you
the guinea
do
pig.
it
You do
for
it.
both of us.
I will. And I will do it proudly, happily. I'll thank every runner I run by.
Right.
I'll do it all.
Yeah,
I'll
you
have the
should.
runners high for us both.
Yeah.
I'll call you
Yeah.
like,
No, do it.
Buck, I just got done
Well,
doing
yeah,
a run.
and if you're at one of those events, you meet some friends, give me a call. I'll
I
meet you
will.
afterwards.
Exactly. There, yeah, you come for the dinner and drinks type of idea. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, why don't you
That was
read us
great.
out?
Okay. Longevity Junkie is created by Dr. Buck Joffrey, MD, and Timothy Fonara. It is executive produced by me, Nikki Lee, Buck Joffrey, and Timothy Fonara. The show is produced by Pretty Fast, original music by Allo Tracks, with mixing by Jay Polizzi, and we're distributed by our friends at Acast. See you.